We got more people shot. Send cars in from Union.
We have probably a crowd of a couple hundred people, and at this point, 5 or 6 people shot in the central city blocks.
Chaos overnight after 16 people were shot during a mass shooting on Rochester's northeast side. 2 people are dead. It happened at a backyard party on Pennsylvania Avenue around 12:30 this morning. Police are still trying to track down the killer or killers. Nikki Rudd joins us near the scene on 6th Street this morning. Nikki.
Good morning, Raven. We want to go ahead and give you a look of what's happening right now. We are about a block away from Pennsylvania Avenue, where this shooting happened around 12:30 this morning. If you're not familiar with this area, we are not far from the Rochester Public Market. News 10 NBC has been here all morning. Police got the call for a shooting at a backyard house party around 12:30 a.m. When officers got here, about 100 people were outside. Investigators say it was chaotic, and the scene spread several city blocks. Again, police have confirmed 16 people were shot, 2 were killed and pronounced dead at the scene. Police tell us those victims were a man and woman in their late teens. Their names have not yet been released. They need to identify the bodies and let family know. As for the other 14 people who were shot, they were taken to Strong Hospital in RGH. All of them are expected to survive. Investigators just told me they're all believed to be in stable condition. Now, at this point, no suspects are in custody. Police aren't saying how many guns were involved or how many shooters. Now, last half hour, you heard a neighbor who heard those shots, knew at 8:30. We spoke to Reverend Marlo Washington, a local and well-known pastor who came out here to the scene in shock.
We got 2 wars on our hand, in addition to COVID. So that's just a third situation. But we have Black Lives Matter, and to deal with that and the police brutality against African Americans, but at the same time, African American killing African Americans, and this is senseless.
So you can see right now, police outside of a house. We have not been told the specific address of where this happened yet, but this is an active investigation. If you are just waking up this morning, 16 people shot in Rochester, 2 are dead. This is the worst mass shooting in recent Rochester history. Police trying to track down who is responsible. We will bring you any updates as we get them live. Reporting from 6th Street in Rochester, Nikki Rudd, News 10 NBC Today.
Thanks, Nikki. We caught up with the acting Rochester Police Chief, Mark Simmons, about the shooting. He said house parties like these are dangerous but normal.
This is yet another tragedy where individuals are having these illegal and unsanctioned house parties taking place in these properties, which, number one, is not safe, because of COVID, because of the conditions. And then you add in alcohol and violence, and it just becomes a recipe for disaster. Up until the point where the 911 calls came in for the shots fired, was not aware of. In fact, we checked our records and we don't show any 911 calls for a disturbance or a loud party or even illegal parking. Again, it was not until we arrived that we realized what was taking place at the location.
Mayor Lovely Warren issued this statement overnight. It reads in part, "Our Pathways to Peace team is on the ground and working with the victims and their families. I'm asking the community for prayers and support for all involved. This tragic act of violence has impacted many people's lives and families. I'm begging everyone to remain calm and exercise deep restraint as RPD investigates what happened here and seeks those responsible. Please keep our city in your continual prayers." This is the largest mass shooting our community has seen since the Boys and Girls Club shooting 5 years ago. Raekwon Manigault, Jonah Barley, and Johnny Johnson Jr. were killed in the shooting. 3 others were injured. All victims were spectators at a basketball game and were leaving when police say shots were fired from a passing car. Johnny Blackshell Jr. was found guilty for the murder. Jalen Everett and Michael Mathis were charged but found not guilty. To recap, here's what we know about this mass shooting so far. 16 people were shot, 2 were killed at a house party on Pennsylvania Avenue near North Goodman Street. Rochester police got the call around 12:30 this morning. Officers say the shooting happened in the backyard of a party. About 100 people were on the scene when police arrived. Police say the 2 people killed were a man and a woman between the ages of 18 and 22. 14 others who were hurt and taken to Strong Hospital and RGH. All of them are expected to survive. Police say the neighborhood is safe. However, no suspects are in custody at this time. Police are interviewing witnesses. We'll continue to bring you the latest on air and online at WHEC.com. The man arrested in a 36-year-old cold case murder is set to be arraigned this morning. 56-year-old Timothy Williams was extradited from Florida ahead of his arraignment. Investigators say he raped and killed 14-year-old Wendy Jerome back in 1984. It was one of several cold cases News and NBC featured in our Inside the Evidence series. Williams is set to be arraigned at 9:30 at City Court. He declined to comment at the airport. Last night was the 4th night of protests outside City Hall demanding justice for Daniel Prude. They're celebrating Prude's life and emphasizing their list of demands. This as subpoenas started going out in the City Council's internal investigation into how the city and Rochester police handled Prude's death. Yesterday, City Council voted 8-0 to establish the internal investigation, and they have hired a lawyer. Now we're going to head over to Amanda for a look at the forecast. Amanda, chilly start, but next week looking pretty nice.
That is right, Raven. We are looking at temperatures this morning that are hard to take on this early September day. 38 degrees in Penn Yan, 37 in Dansville, 39 in Rochester. It is 45 degrees in Sodus this morning. Our temperatures are about 14 degrees colder in Rochester compared to this time yesterday morning, 15 degrees colder in Dansville, and several of you woke up with frost on your lawns, on your cars this morning. And we need to prepare for that again as we head into tomorrow morning. Taking a look at satellite and radar again, clear sky, a couple of fair weather clouds, beautiful sunshine today. That'll warm us up into the upper 50s, near 60 degrees. Now, that is still about 10 degrees below the average for this time of year. 8 a.m. temperatures into the upper 30s, low 50s by noon, and we will brush by that 60 degree mark during the afternoon. 5 o'clock, 58 degrees. And a viewer sent in this picture of Max and Minnie and said they were the 2 cutest snugglebugs that she's ever seen. Raven?
Amanda, thanks. Turning to our coronavirus coverage, according to NBC News, by the time most Americans wake up today, the U.S. will likely have surpassed 200,000 deaths due to COVID-19. As far as we know, there will be no moments of silence or observances. For all that we've lost in this pandemic, the loss of shock is uniquely disturbing. NBC's Lester Holt takes a look.
COVID-19 has left no collapsed buildings, no rows of flag-draped coffins, but no modern U.S. disaster has claimed more people. And yet, is it possible we're closing our eyes to it?
Do you have any idea how many people have died of COVID in this country?
I know that it is high in the thousands.
I believe they put out an estimation like over 100,000 and then they retracted that and said something like 1,900?
Yeah, I think in the tens of thousands.
In reality, it's 200,000, but lost in the numbers, the names and faces, like Cody Lister of Colorado.
We lost our son, our 21-year-old son.
Cody was one of 1,874 who died from COVID in the U.S. on April 8th.
He pretty much wore his heart on his sleeve. Always finished a conversation with "I love you," whether it was on the phone or a text message.
The learning curve to 200,000 dead has been steep and it has been costly. Remember when mask wearing was discouraged?
You may be increasing your chance of getting a disease by wearing that mask.
The science evolved. Masks, of course, are now encouraged. But did it have to get this bad?
150,000 of the deaths, maybe more, could have been prevented. We just didn't take it seriously. We didn't do it right.
That our country's response has been muddled has been well documented. The miscalculations, mistrust, and misinformation.
Looks like by April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away.
Patrick Patois never saw April.
So they took him to the nearest hospital. Once he left in the ambulance, we never saw him again. So
He worked in a train yard for the New York subway system. He was one of 2,983 who died of COVID on March 30th. He had just turned 57.
I look around and a lot of the people that used to work in these buildings are working at home.
Yeah.
They're able to shelter at home.
Yep.
Your father didn't have that option.
He didn't have that option. He had to go into work every day.
Globally, in deaths per 100,000, the United States ranks in the top 10. But there are encouraging signs, including the rapid development of vaccines and therapeutics.
We have several treatments now that look like they work. I'm hopeful we'll have one or two more in the upcoming weeks and months. So it's going to make the disease less lethal.
Hotspots like New York have been turned around as others emerge, like college campuses. And though we now stand at 200,000 dead, at least one projection tells us it will likely more than double to 410,000 by year's end, meaning more Americans will personally know there is so much more to a number.
If by our sharing Cody's story, if we can save one life, even just one life, it's like his death would not be in vain.
And that was Lester Holt reporting. Well, next week is a big moment for high school sports in New York. Teams will finally be able to play again. Well, only some of them. How one local player is appealing to the state to try to get back on the court. Plus, a deadly mass shooting at a large house party in Rochester this morning. Stick with News and NBC today all morning for the latest updates from police as the investigation continues.